There is something about these seafaring towns. The superstitions, their tall tales. I find it charming myself. What town doesn't have a checkered past?
Was there cannibalism?
No. I don't think that's right.
If you like shows like From, Midnight Mass, Fargo, or even Welcome to Derry, you'll like Widow's Bay. Created by Kaylee DePold, who I know of the Parks and Rec status, and directed and executive produced by Hiro Murai, who is a frequent Childish Gambino collaborator, helping make things like Atlanta, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and even his own project with The Bear. Something I haven't necessarily watched, but I only hear good things about. And with this video, I plan on starting off just giving a non-spoiler recommendation for why you should watch the series, and if I can't really convince you by the end of this, then maybe you could just stick around for the recaps and see if there's anything to pique your interest. And after the recaps, towards the end of the video, we'll be breaking down some of the mysteries they've set up so far within these first couple episodes. Either way, for this non-spoiler review, I just have to warn that if you're interested in a fast-paced, non-stop horror franchise like Welcome to Derry, you're not going to get it here. No, this show tends to follow a bit of a slower pace, along the lines like that of Severance or From, two other shows that are known for building up their mysteries really well and taking their time with their characters. That being said, the show does give you a lot to ponder within these first few episodes, with most of the dialogue throughout each episode alluding to some piece of history or mystery found within this town. Throughout the show, I found myself glued to the screen in what I can only compare to that of the likes of Pennywise when you're seeing different articles of Derry's history and trying to piece together different times he caused a horrific event to go down. And if there's one thing this island's full of, it's horrific events. But what really draws your attention are the folktales and superstitions these islanders tend to bring up, most of whom have never even left the island. But we see that while some of these folktales are simply that, stories, some are actually true and linger in the background like a looming threat. The acting is also pretty solid throughout this series, with the characters talking and reacting either like quirky weirdos or realistic human beings, sort of the straight man to their unserious and odd behavior. The cinematography is also pretty spectacular, which is to be expected from the likes of Hiro Murai. And I gotta say, with his quirky style of audio and cinematography, it fits perfect within a mystery box show like this one. The sound design just being stellar and providing the show with a quirky yet dark theme, which really fits because the show balances out its darker nature with its humor. Humor I'd say is very resemblant to other series like Fargo or even Twin Peaks at times, with most of the islanders' odd behavior making it quite endearing, especially when contrasted with the characters who are taking things just a little too seriously. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if there was something odd going on with each and every one of these characters we just haven't learned about yet. And with that, we'll go ahead and start breaking down the episodes in general. So if you have any interest in watching the show, hopefully I could convince you with that opening bit. And if you are interested and you happen to have an Apple Plus subscription, I recommend just going on there and watching it. Then you can come back here and let the channel know of any thoughts and theories you may have watching forward. And if you end up watching it and decide not to come back, well, I'll just
Have to find you.
The series really kicks off with some super creative cinematography, as I stated earlier. We see as a sailor named Shep is talking about being kicked to the curb by his girl. Seagulls all flying away from something very ominous. With some strange fog rolling in, it cuts to the rest of the residents sleeping, being woken up by an earthquake, with a radio later stating that it's the first earthquake they felt in over 20 years. We then get a soft introductions to the characters like Mayor Tom, prepping the town for the New York Times writer to come and make a piece about it, hoping to draw more tourists in town and bring back its economy and make it a little more lively, with him striving to be that of a new Far Harbor. It's while he's discussing things with his assistant Patricia that we see a moment that raised my eyebrows. See, he's looking through a calendar with each month representing a different wolf. However, when he reaches the month of July, he finds that it's a turned over van, looking confused before closing the calendar and moving on. Either way, him and Patricia have a very funny dynamic, as she's a bit odd but super helpful and probably keeping things together for him that he tends to let fall on the wayside, with, like I said, their dynamic being pretty entertaining.
We have to show this man a good time.
What are you asking me to do, Tom?
What do you think I'm asking you to do?
Well, I didn't know.
We then get to see as the New York Times writer arrives and Tom tries to steer him towards the better parts of town, only for him to immediately end up at the town's museum, indulging in its rich history. And again, by the end of this video, we'll be breaking down a lot of what we see within the town's history in more detail. But for now, we pretty much catch up with the museum owner Jerry explaining that the town thrived on its whaling economy and often men would be out at sea for months at a time, presumably getting pretty lonely. Tom immediately tries to take over and take the writer on his own tour that is less caught up in superstitions. It's when they're walking through the town that it's honestly really nice aesthetically, from its architecture to the old-timey feel it possesses. And when Tom makes plan to have dinner later with the writer, he goes to meet with his staff to set things more up around town. That's when a strange man named Wick arrives and says,
I'm the Raven.
He's urging Tom to go ahead and close off the island just to protect people as things are about to get really rough. Wick warns that in 1846 there was a deadly fog that arrived that they ended up calling the fog that stole souls, and the people who suffered it went through 3 stages of horror, noting that all of this always started with an earthquake and that signified it was her waking up. And the stages of horror you'd go through if taken by the fog would be stage 1, eyes turning white and fogging over, stage 2, loss of the 5 senses and delirium, stage 3, either erectile dysfunction or loss of erection as Wick so kindly put it, or you could potentially run into the visited revenants of doomed sailors, as in essentially zombies. Tom is confused by all of this superstition and is wondering why Wick is doing this, taking it as a personal attack because he's in charge, with Wick stating that he actually knows Tom's just a bad leader, as long ago when they were kids, he knows Tom would pretend to ding-dong ditch people's houses and show off to the rest of his friends in the hopes of earning their respect. That's how he knows Tom would not make a good leader. It's here Shep, the sailor we opened the series with, stumbles into the bar and falls over, with some serious swelling in his head. When Tom later goes to check up with him at the medical clinic, we see the residents tend to look a little older here than their age would suggest.
I learned my biological age is 28.
And before you go assuming the worst, the actress herself, Kate O'Flynn, is in fact 40 years old, which is also surprising to me as I figured she was in her early 30s. But the bigger reveal came when they looked into Shep's medical chart, because this old bag of dinosaur dust had a medical chart claiming he was actually 37 years old. There's definitely something strange going on with the people born on this island, but we'll break that down in just a minute. For right now, it seems Tom has to deal with Shep waking up and attacking him before straight up dying in his lap. But while he was attacking Tom, his eyes were glazed over white and potentially proving Wick's stories to be true. Tom is shaken after this attack and is later distracted by the fog looming over town before being reminded by Patricia that he has a dinner to get to with the writer. And despite the good news that the writer did enjoy his stay in the town, Tom is too distracted by recent events. The writer claims that he was told people born on the island aren't actually able to leave, and that folk who do end up dying a bit later once they reach the mainland, with a man who died 1 month after staying on the mainland and a woman who died of a stroke 1 day later. Tom's reaction here has me wondering if there's any correlation between this woman, the van we saw turned over in the calendar, and his dead wife. Either way, recent events were really getting to Tom, but he holds his composure when the fog rolls in and surrounds the restaurant and calmly lets everybody know that there's something potentially dangerous within the fog.
There's something in the fog!
Once everyone seems fine, even the waitress that was caught in the fog, Tom finally relaxes. That's when the camera pans down and we see there's multiple floors beneath this island's surface, with one possessing an electrocutioner's chair facing some iron doors. It's here we step into episode 2 and find Wick boarding up the doors to the local inn, claiming people shouldn't stay there and that it's just not right. Tom loses his temper and puts Wick down for being a hick.
He's a coward! Fuck you dumb hick!
The residents looking at him extremely disappointingly. Tom later tries to rectify his situation and his reputation by offering to stay at the inn overnight and prove it's not haunted. Only willing to do this because the town's residents constant pushing him to, with them even offering a list of things for him to check out, with the only person not wanting him to go being the old man harbor master.
Thank you.
Don't do it.
It's later, the pastor consoles the stressed out Tom and reminds him that when the Lord gathers a herd, he calls upon a shepherd. But when Tom brings up that the church bells were going off a little early in the morning, the priest is taken back, confused how it's even possible, before claiming everything is fine and heading back to the church. It's back at the church that we find the bell has been completely wrapped around itself. The priest later looking through some files and letters and finding one meant for the future priest of the church, warning that should the bell toll, the specific instructions are meant to be followed, indicating that all this talk of the island waking up is probably real, and the priest is meant to play a vital role in either aiding it or aiding the residents of the town. Tom arrives at the hotel and checks some things out, like a painting showing a small slough or boat that has people huddled together as the sea seems to swallow them. And then farther away, we can see someone swimming by themselves and reaching for an oar being stretched out to them. Only the painting is cut off and we don't actually get to see what exactly is going on in the rest of it. Either way, Tom is taken to his room by the innkeeper, but the innkeeper refused to enter the suite, let alone stay in the inn overnight. Tom continues to explore and checks out the bookshelf, and while this could take some deeper looking, I didn't notice anything too strange with these books, except for one that was upside down called The New Garden Encyclopedia, which is apparently a mid-century guide to gardening. Then we see some board games that also come off a little strange, like one called Teeth with just a pair of pliers, once again illustrating the importance of teeth on the island. Then he pulls a card game called Run, where he chooses between cards that say not yet and an eventual run card, which any Yellow Jackets fans out there can already see where this story could potentially be going. But I'll get more into that when we go into the town's history towards the end of the video. Either way, Tom moves throughout the hotel and checks off the list the residents gave him of creepy stuff. He ends up hearing screaming in the pipes, almost as if Pennywise is haunting him, only to suddenly hear footsteps outside of his door and later have that be revealed to be a new guest named William, who probably has nothing associated with clowns or Pennywise in any way, shape, or form. Either way, Tom goes back into his room and checks out his TV again, only to have the screens on the commercial that was playing earlier stuck on the field. When he's trying to change the channel, this happens.
Come with me.
Interestingly enough, this entire ad was actually released online for the public to watch, and the same dark figure does appear within it. Either way, this stresses him out enough to go ahead and offer William to go take a drink with him. It's in this sequence we hear more about Tom's backstory. His dad was a local, and his mom was from the mainland. He ended up spending his summers on the island, dreading hanging out with his father every time. He eventually moved back to the island when his dad got sick. He would claim as a kid his dad would always return home drunk and share horror stories that were far too tough for a kid to hear. Potentially this is alluding to Tom's reluctance and disdain for these folk stories, having some resentment for his father. William warns that Tom has to be careful or the hicks of the town will drag him down if he lets them, claiming he would like to watch them all burn in hell. Then he admits he has too much to drink and that Tom would make a good mirror, and that if he just goes and finishes off that checklist, he'll be able to show the residents who's boss. So Tom finishes the list and ends up going through the crawl space, with William arriving just behind and standing there. And when Tom's confused why he's answering so strangely and tells him he's fine, William proceeds to do this.
Well, William?
Too bad. So sad.
Why didn't you answer me?
You finally came.
What? No, no. No, don't come in. I'm coming out. Don't come in. Don't come.
What's strange about this scene is he backs up and sees a corpse with a shirt similar to his own before the clown eventually gets him. Only he wakes up and potentially it was all just a dream. And when they try to look at footage of the hotel, they see William was never there in the first place, with Wick arriving, referring to William as Willie the Clown. Now, how much time they'll actually spend focused on this clown, we're unsure, but he does pose a lot of parallels to Pennywise. Either way, the owner gets fed up with all of Wick's Pennywise comparisons and tells him that all of his horror stories are actually hurting his business. So Wick challenges him to prove that it's fine and stay in the captain's room for 10 seconds. And when he does this, the sheriff actually counts extra quickly. But when opening the door, the inn manager is confused, asking him why they made him wait so long. When they tell him they only waited 10 seconds, he seems like he doesn't want to make anything seem off and says, yeah, it was 10 seconds. Then they claim he should stay in there for 30 seconds. And when he asks for some food first, they are really confused as it's only 30 seconds. When they leave him in there and Wick tries to tell Tom that everything here is dangerous and they need to close the island, they open the door after 30 quiet seconds and see the room is completely trashed and torn apart, despite not hearing a single sound. The manager, obviously a little taken back and restless after whatever he experienced in there, but still lying about how long he seemed to be inside, building tension between both Tom and Wick in regards to the residents and the island's safety. And while that breaks down the first couple of episodes we got, I wanted to save this particular section to go ahead and go over some of the mysteries we have established. We see in the museum sequence when they're discussing the origins of the town that they can't exactly get their story straight, alluding to a lingering mystery.
42 passengers from the mainland embarked by sea to find a settlement they could call their own.
Yeah, no, the 43 passengers in.
I think it's a little early for that story, Jerry, but
Tom then claiming that they arrived on a completely empty and untamed island, with Jerry adding that there were actually teeth found all over. This definitely connecting to the strange teeth game we saw earlier. Either way, the original settlers established themselves on the island during what was known as the harshest winter in Widows Bay history, all founded by their leader, Richard Warren, or their first mayor. Some other stories that Jerry tends to bring up is like that of the witch trial, her claiming it was a great source of pride how they culled the witches and burned them. I'm wondering if this could potentially be related to the strange wooden crown we see a shot of on the shelves. There's also the story of the strange man they found dead on the island next to his horse, no one knowing who he was. Or the story of the priest getting eaten by a whale that came up out of nowhere and ate him. His name being Father Albertos, he was just taking a stroll when the whale beached itself, swallowed him up, and returned to the sea, leaving witnesses in disbelief. Most claiming if it hadn't been so early in the day, they would have blamed it on the drink messing up their vision. We also hear reference to something strange happening with the old hospital and them claiming it's not really safe unless you happen to keep moving and don't stop for too long near it. And that's not the only dangerous building, as we saw with the haunted inn. Several people had died here, like the captain from the now known Captain Sweet who lost his mind, the ungrateful Hoardings Fitzgerald, a woman who fled her wedding and fell out of a window, the New Year's 1962 disaster with a man named John Reynolds' head being found in a dumbwaiter, and the 1951 clown killer Willie, who we presumably can say is William, potentially being the reason why the crawl space is so off limits. And it seems, similar to series like Welcome to Derry or even From, this sequence of horrific events tends to follow some kind of cycle, with the town being founded during its harshest winter and another winter later marking the town's history yet again, being referred to as the Storm of Hell, which was a storm that happened in 1788 that also followed a series of strange occurrences. This winter storm forced people into the church, and after 4 days, they resulted to cannibalism to survive. This is a lot like the Yellow Jackets in many different ways. With the subtle allusions to the witch's coven and the paranormal, there is a chance that either some entity haunts this place in many different ways, or a coven of witches brought a bunch of paranormal things to existence on this island. Whether that be to aid or fight back against the entity that was already here, we're unsure. And we can't even be too certain there's not some strange governmental experiment going on with these underground floors we have introduced. But part of me wonders if potentially this series will be building towards another massive and devastating winter. Which, with shows like these, it's always good to have something to look forward to down the line with the series run. Either way, it's clear that while some of these really are just manifested folk tales that the residents tell each other just to keep things entertaining, some of these stories we see can actually be based in a little bit of truth. I'm excited to see where these folktale superstitions and mysteries eventually collide and meet with the story they're trying to tell. And while I hope all of these mysterious paranormal events are actually connected in some way, shape, or form and not just random, I'm still enjoying the creative anthology feel of each episode introducing something new and creepy. All of this likely being a result of the island finally waking up. But what do you guys think? If you haven't watched the series, are you interested now? If you did watch the series, do you have any thoughts and theories? If so, I want to hear them, and you can let me know down below. Or if you enjoyed this video and want to see me cover this series further, it really helps prove so if you like, share, comment, subscribe, all that annoying stuff we ask you guys to do. But no matter what, I can safely say I'll be watching this series either way. And I'm hoping people who've seen this video will also want to give it the chance. Either way, thank you all for watching, stay safe out there, and if you're ever going to an island where people tell you bad stuff happens all the time, just don't go.
They come with you when you go.
I need you to listen to me, please. Okay, there isn't much time. Now, this is gonna sound very, very strange, and you're not gonna believe me, and I wouldn't believe me either. Okay, and I wish there was more time to explain, but if you don't come with me right now, you're all going to die.
What the hell was that?
That was death,
It's Grandma. Come to the window.
and it's coming.
We have seen unbelievable shit in this place. Roads that lead nowhere. Monsters that come from the dark. According to Boyd, there are evil fucking trees that trap you in dungeons.
People who were lost. They couldn't escape. She said they were holding on to hope, and when that hope was gone, they held on to each other.
Now you can understand! There's something in the room!
Oh,